Right, for you guys that usually watch my videos, I don't usually do how-to videos. However, I am going to do a how-to video on this one. So, for those of you that own an FTX Carnage, you'll probably already know that they break fairly regularly, but parts are really, really cheap. So I bought my boy an FTX Carnage probably a year or two ago, something like that anyway. He's broken it again. In a previous video you may have seen he's broken the rear end. He's lost the other part of the A-arm, which was obviously the same as this. Is right here. That was on there. So I'll talk you through how to take this lot apart and repair it. And the parts you are going to need, hopefully you can see all of these. So there are your hub carriers. Here are your, I can't even think what they're called. It is the cups for your rear dog bones. There are your rear A-arms. There are the dog bones. So hopefully, if you guys need the part numbers for these, that's for your pins. And these are your pins. There you go. There's your hinge pins. As you hear, like they hold the hinge pins in, which is this part here. So that part there comes off with 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, and there is 2 underneath there, which I've already removed, but I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, I thought you might want to see a how-to video on how to repair an FTX Carnage rear end, but right, let's get to it. So I'm going to have the camera like this. Hopefully you guys can see everything that I'm going to be doing. It might be a really boring video for the majority of the people that watch my channel. So I've already removed these screws on the rear here. So taking that out, we'll remove these pins. Would usually stay in place. This here is the pin which is really bent, which is why I've bought the new ones. That's the remaining part of the A-arm, and that is these. That's those. So that's the replacement for those. I don't know if I'm going to use those yet because this is absolutely fine. There's no need to use those. So I think I'm just going to put this one back on for now. Right, let's remove the rest of this. I'm really hoping you guys can see. Right, pull that out. There's the other old pin. Right, so now that is stripped down. It's going to probably fall off of the vise. Let me just move this camera back a bit. There we go. I need new A-arms. Where's my knife? Knife. There we go. Need to make sure they go round the right way as well. Dog bones, hinge pins. So, new hinge pins. And these have to go round a certain way. Okay, so, pin goes in here. You've got a hole here, and this is for, what have I done with them? Here. So that is for these screws. So these screws will go into here. I'm really hoping you can see what I'm doing. And they are for adjusting the droop. Then they will come out the other side like that. You can see, yeah, right. So I happen to know that they went too far below the surface of that A-arm. So I can adjust them in a minute. I'll just get them roughly to where I want them to be. Right, so that is now sitting in there. The other one. That is the other screws here. That's going to sit that way. Let me fiddly. Very fiddly. So I've now got both of the rear arms on. So now I want to put this piece back on. I can squeeze that together a little bit, just line those up. Easier said than done. Right, there we go. So that's on there nice and tight. You will have 2 of these longer screws which go either side. So I won't do them up dead tight with this. Literally just do it until I know. There we go. So I know it's sort of got the tension. It's tight, but it's not cranked up tight, and I wouldn't do it with a drill. Otherwise you risk rounding the heads off of the screws or pulling the threads out inside here because it is just plastic. So I do advise not to do that. Right, so let's get the suspension back on. And I cannot remember. There's the old one. Let's see, where was that set on the old one? Right, so on here you can see it was set on the furthest one out. So that'll be this one here. So I shall set it how it was. There we go, so that's back in. Let's get this one in. Really hoping you guys can see all of this. I don't usually do how-to video. This is why I do it off camera, because it's quite difficult to get everything in camera and in shot so that you guys can see everything. Right, so that's done. The only thing I need to do now is change the hub carriers and the drive caps. I don't think I have anyway, any new bearings to go inside there, so I'm going to have to reuse the old ones. Right, let's get these off. God, it's so cold in my shed. Right, so there's the old carrier, and this is the new one. They should both be exactly the same. Yeah, they're both exactly the same, so it doesn't matter whether you get them the wrong way round or anything like that, because there is no right or wrong. So these bearings in here are still running really free, so that one's a little bit gritty, but they're not too bad. So I will just take those out and I'll put those back into the new hub carriers and then rebuild the rest of the rear end. So I'll be back in a second once I've got these bearings out. So as you can see, bearing and hub carrier is in there. Well, 2 bearings. You've got a bearing on this inside. Take that out. So you've got a bearing on the inside, bearing on the outer. Hub carrier just slot straight in there. Might be easier to do this without that in actually. So we'll screw that back on here. And that is set on upside down. That's set on the furthest one. Again, I don't want to change the settings or anything like that, so that will be adjusting the camber and bits and pieces like that if you start messing around with those. I don't need to change any of that because it's not like we're using it for any sort of competitions or anything. It's just my boy's basher, go-to basher, that he tends to try and go to. It's probably the fastest one he's got. I converted it to brushless. It does go wrong a lot, but FTX are still very, very good in my opinion. Right, so that's on. Then it's a case of mounting your hub carrier into your lower arms, and we'll repeat the process on this side. Then the dog bones are ready to go in, so I'll show you just very quickly. Now the only thing I didn't get with these lower arms or the hub carriers was the spaces that go in between here. Turn that around, hopefully you can see. So there's some spaces that go either side of here. Now luckily I did save I think, all of the spacers that came out of the old one. So I'll try and put those back in. They are really fiddly though. Really horrible little job that is. So put that back in there. And then this will be the rear end rebuilt. I always find these so fiddly, but I do have big hands. That'll be the rear end, so it'll sit like that. And that'll all be rebuilt ready for him. So the shorter pins are here. These are what holds this in place. I've got some of the spacers, and I don't know if it is actually all of them, so I'm really hoping there is enough there. So I've got 6, so that would allow me 3 each side. I have a bad feeling it needs more than that. So this is the fiddly part. That bit's fine. Got a feeling I'm going to need some more spacers. Not too bad. Come on, in you go. Right, so that is in. Yes, I need some more spacers. Right, the bit that holds that pin in is these tiny little screws here. So these are very small. That screws into the back here. That just stops that pin coming back out again. There we go. So that's one side rebuilt. Do the same on this side. So I'll take the carrier off, put the new one in, take the bearings off, or out of this, put them in this, and then put the pin in. We'll do the same. Back in a minute. Right, so back end of the carnage is now rebuilt. The only thing I now need to do is put back in these 2 screws that are under here. As you can tell, I don't usually do how-to videos. I find them more difficult to do than my usual content. I think it's because I have to talk to the camera more. But anyway, right. That's rebuilt. That's done. That's ready to go. So I've got to put in these pins in the drive shafts. Put those back in. And put the hexes back on. See, this doesn't even... Usually I upgrade all of my cars. I haven't upgraded this whatsoever, I don't think, apart from the brushless system. And yes, it does break, but it's still a pretty decent car, to be honest. Like, if you want to get your child into RC, now speak of the devil, he's at the door. Sorry about that. That was my son at the door giving me that "Daddy, tea's ready" shout. So I'm going to get this finished. I'm going to go in and have my tea. So, wheels back on. Same this side. I'll probably keep this to one side, but I think I want to get him another basher that he can go to. Like his go-to basher every time we go out. What would you guys recommend? Other than the carnage, that's all fine. That all works lovely. Right. So what would you guys recommend? Other than a carnage, something that's not too expensive, because he destroys everything. Literally everything he gets his hands on, he will destroy, which is why I gave him the MJX Hyper Go in a previous video. This one. That's why I gave him this one, to see if he could destroy that. And not that I put it in a video, I don't think. He snapped the shock and he snapped the lower arm there. But that is the only thing he did. and that's after taking it out. That was the third time taking it out. He then destroyed it. So that did really well. But what would you recommend as a 1/10 scale basher? What do you think? What do you guys think that would last? It would last more than one outing, basically. He literally smashes everything to bits. So if I can get him a car that I don't have to spend money on every single time he takes it out, that'd be absolutely brilliant. What have you guys had? I'd love to hear your experience on different bashers, whether it's, do you have the same problem with the Carnage, or is it just me? Is it just my son that can literally destroy everything he gets his hands on? Or what would you recommend? Yeah, leave it in the comments and I'll definitely have a read. All right, hope you guys enjoy this how-to video. Like I say, it's not my usual sort of video, so it's probably a bit rubbish for the majority of you. But I shall see you in another video. All right, see you later.